Okay, so we've previously talked about 3 rules for the grid, and if you want to go ahead and get those notes out real quick, we're going to add to them today. So we're going to add to our rules for the grid. Rule number 1 was the given goes top left with units. Rule number 2 is the top left matches bottom right in units only. Rule number 3 was any equality can go in any column. Now, here's the thing. That's really the only rules we absolutely need. Because molar mass is actually an equality. If you think about it, the units for molar mass were grams per mole. What that means is that whatever the molar mass is in grams, that is equal to 1 mole. That's what that little word per means. Just like miles per hour is how many miles there would be in 1 hour. So we don't really need rules 4 and 5 if you can remember that. The problem is I have found that kids don't always remember that. And so I came up with rules 4 and 5 to kind of help you remember where everything goes in case you forget how to use molar mass as an equality. So rule number 4 is that moles always gets a 1. And I'm going to say for now, because we are going to add an exception to that in our next unit. But for now, moles is always going to get a 1. And then rule number 5 is grams always gets molar mass. Okay, so these are our 5 rules for the grid. And now if you'll grab the worksheet, let's talk about how we use them to make this happen. Okay, so at the top of the worksheet, you've got a place to actually write the equality. So the equality is that 1 mole is equal to the molar mass of the compound, and that's going to be in grams. Okay, so let's look at this first problem. It says, what is the mass of 0.75 moles of MgCl2? So our given would be that 0.75 moles of MgCl2. They're asking us for the mass. Mass isn't really a unit. Mass is just sort of how we measure something. So really what they're asking for is the mass in grams. So we're trying to get from moles to grams. I'm going to do the grid down below just to have a little bit more space down there. So let's go ahead and write our equality. We have 1 mole of MgCl2 is equal to whatever the molar mass of MgCl2 is in grams of MgCl2. So we're going to get out our periodic table and a calculator, and we need the molar mass of MgCl2. So magnesium is 24.305 plus 2 times the mass of chlorine, which is 35.453. That gives us a molar mass of 95.211 grams of MgCl2. All right, so let's set up our grid. Rule number 1 for the grid is that the given goes top left with units. So I'm going to take my given 0.75 with the unit moles of MgCl2. Make sure you have number, unit, compound, number, unit, compound, number, unit, compound. Okay? Rule number 2 is that the top left matches the bottom right in units. So I'm going to pull that moles of MgCl2 down to the bottom right. Okay. And we are trying to get to grams of MgCl2. All right, so now I want you to look at our equality. In our equality, moles of MgCl2 has a 1. We're going to put that 1 next to moles of MgCl2 in our grid. Grams of MgCl2 has 95.211. So we're going to put that next to grams in our grid. Now, real quick, let's look at rules 4 and 5. Moles always gets a 1. Did moles get a 1? Yes. Grams always gets molar mass. Did grams get molar mass? Yes. Okay, so to solve this, we're going to multiply across the top. So we're going to take 0.75 times 95.211, and that's going to get us 71.40825. And then this box, remember, we always think of as a 1. So we have 1 times 1 on the bottom. That's just going to be 1. So when we divide this out, we should end up with the answer being 71.40825. And if this was math class, we would leave it like that. But this is not math class. We have to round this to sig figs and add a unit. So going back to our original number, that is 2 sig figs, because remember that's a leading 0, and we don't ever count leading zeros. So our answer can only have 2 sig figs. So starting at the left, we go 1, 2. The number after that is less than 5, so we're going to dump it. So our answer here is going to be 71 grams of MgCl2. Where did I get my unit from? Well, moles cancels with moles, and that leaves us with grams of MgCl2, so that's the unit we put on our answer. All right, that's beautiful and wonderful, but we could also go the other way. All right, so let's look at example 2, where we're going to go a little bit different direction with it. So first of all, you might notice they didn't give us the formula. Well, we can't calculate the molar mass without the formula. So you have phosphorus tribromide, which would be PBr3. If you don't remember how to do those, make sure you get your flow chart from our nomenclature unit and use it to help you. All right, so our given 204.0 grams of PBr3, they're asking us to find moles. So our equality here is that 1 mole of PBr3 is going to be equal to whatever the molar mass of PBr3 is in grams of PBr3. So now we need to get our calculator and our periodic table and add them up. So phosphorus is 30.974 plus 3 times the mass of bromine, which is 79.904. That gets us 270.686 as our molar mass. All right, so let's set up our grid. That's probably a little excessive. All right. So the given goes top left with units. So I'm going to take that 204.0 grams of PBr3. Top left matches bottom right in units, so I'm going to pull that grams of PBr3 down. And we're trying to get from grams to moles, and I have an equality that goes grams to moles, so I can do that. Okay. Next to moles of PBr3, we have a 1. Next to grams of PBr3, we have our molar mass, so we're going to put that 270.686 in there. So grams cancel with grams, leaving us with moles. That's what we want. So again, we're going to multiply across the top. 204.0 times 1 is going to give us 204.0. Remember, this box is always assumed to be a 1. So 1 times 270.686 is going to be 270.686. So we're going to do 204.0 divided by 270.686. And that's going to get us 0.7536407498. Whew, huge number of digits. All right. So now the last piece is to round to sig figs and add our units. So our original number had 4 sig figs because that is a trailing 0 with a decimal. I'm going to start at the 7 because the 0 before that is a leading 0. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. The number after that is less than 5, so we're going to dump this. So this is going to be 0.7536, and our unit is this moles of PBr3. All right, so practice setting these up using the rest of that worksheet.